Lesson 4. Change your environment. Change yourself. Human beings adapt to their environments. We draw on a range of skills and personality traits to fit into various settings. That is why we can behave one way in a social setting and then seem like a totally different human being at work. One of the enduring attractions of travel is that it takes us out of our native environments and forces us to adapt to new people, new cultures, and new ways. When we make those adaptations, we discover new facets of ourselves. As we'll see shortly, discrepancy is the mother of all change. When we are in the same environments, we tend to draw upon the same routine modes of thought and behavior. A few months ago I had an attack of acute appendicitis while staying in a LaGuardia airport hotel awaiting a return flight to Chicago. When I went to the nearest emergency room at Elmhurst Hospital outside Jackson Heights, Queens, I found that I was seemingly the only native English speaker in a sea of people awaiting medical care. After some difficulty attracting attention, I was admitted to the hospital and spent the next several days of recuperation navigating my way through patients and staff of every conceivable nationality. By the end of the experience, I felt at home there. I've since stayed at the same airport hotel and routinely make visits into the surrounding neighborhoods, areas I would have never in my wildest dreams ventured into previously. In adapting to that environment, I discovered hidden strengths. I also overcame more than a few hidden prejudices and fears. The greatest enemy of change is routine. When we lapse into routine and operate on autopilot, we are no longer fully and actively conscious of what we are doing and why. That is why some of the most fertile situations for personal growth, those that occur within new environments, are those that force us to exit our routines and actively master unfamiliar challenges. In familiar environments and routines, we operate on autopilot. Nothing changes. When you act as your own trading coach, your challenge is to stay fully conscious, alert to risk and opportunity. One of your greatest threats will be the autopilot mode in which you act without thinking, without full awareness of your situation. If you shift your trading environment, you push yourself to adapt to new situations, you break routines. If your environment is always the same, you will find yourself gravitating to the same thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. We are mired in repetitive patterns of thought and behavior because we are mired in routines, the same emotional and physical environments. Indeed, we repeat the same patterns, for better or for worse, precisely because those patterns are adaptations to our current settings. So how can we change our trading environments? The key is recognizing that our physical settings are only a part of our surroundings. Here are a few routine-busting activities that can alert us to risks and possibilities. 1. Seek out divergent views. Conversations with traders who trade differently from you, different time frames, markets, or styles, can often help cement your views or question them. Similarly, reading materials from fresh perspectives puts your ideas in a different light and pushes you to question your assumptions. I remained relatively bullish on the stock market's longer-term picture into the final quarter of 2007. Only when I pushed myself to read informed views that clashed with my own, and consulting data that did not fit my framework, did I modify my perspectives and avoid significant losses. 2. Examine the big picture. It's easy to get lost in the market's short-term picture, how it is trading that minute, that day. I find it important to periodically zoom out to longer-term charts and place the current action into context. Indeed, some of the best trading ideas start with a big-picture view and then proceed to shorter-term execution. I especially find this to be the case when looking at longer-term support, resistance, trading ranges, and market profile value areas. Often, shifting my field of vision will help me avoid an ill-informed, reactive trade based on the market's last few ticks. If something seems obvious in the market, switch time frames and generate an entirely new perspective. What looks obvious from one view may well be obviously wrong from another. 3. Examine related views. Sometimes the action of a single stock or sector will illuminate what's happening in the broader market. One currency cross will break out ahead of others. Are we seeing a broad fixed income rally, or is the yield curve steepening or flattening? Looking across instruments and asset classes keeps us from getting locked into ways of thinking. I find myself tracking sector ETFs during the trading day to see if stocks are moving in a single direction, trending, or are taking different paths within a range. If I see bond traders fleeing to safety or assuming risk, I can anticipate selling or buying stocks. Seeing the entire financial playing field helps keep us from becoming wedded to preconceived ideas. 4. Take the break. Just as we take vacations to return to work refreshed, a break from the screen can help us generate fresh market views. It is easy to become focused on what is most dramatic and salient in markets. Pull back and clear out the head to help you see what's not obvious and then profit by the time it's recognized by others. I find breaks especially helpful following losing trades, enabling us to reflect on the losses and what can be learned from them. If your environment is comfortable, it probably isn't conducive to change. In short, it's the mental routines, the mental environment, that we most need to change to break unwanted and unprofitable patterns of thought and behavior. When you're your own trading coach, you learn to think, but also to think about your thinking. Incorporate a fresh look at self and markets each day to inspire new ideas, challenge stale ones, and tap sources of energy and inspiration that otherwise remain hidden in routine. As with my adventure in Queens, you may find that the most exotic changes bring out your finest adaptations. Lesson 5. Transform emotion by trace formation. When traders seek coaching, they are usually troubled by a particular emotional state that affects their decision-making: anger, frustration, anxiety, or doubt. Their goal is to change how they feel, but they don't know how to accomplish that. Sometimes traders even view their emotions as fixed and unchanging aspects of personality. It's just the way I am. It is true that our traits and temperaments affect how we experience the world. They also play an important role in defining the range of our emotions. Some people feel things, good and bad, very strongly, others are quite even-keeled. Neuroticism, the tendency to experience negative emotions, is one of the big 5 personality traits identified by researchers. Like all such traits, it has a strong hereditary component. Though we like to think of ourselves as masters of our fates, the sobering reality is that much of our emotional experience is hardwired. Does that mean we can't change how we feel in particular situations? Not at all. If psychological methods can help people overcome post-traumatic stresses and anxiety disorders, they certainly can help us master our feelings in normal life situations. For the most part, we cannot change personality, but we can change how our personalities are expressed. The trap many traders fall into is trying to control feelings with thoughts. We attempt to talk ourselves into feeling better or differently. Rarely does that work. When people are grieving over losses, telling them they'll be okay doesn't really touch what they're experiencing. The feelings express a psychological reality. Asserting a logical reality ignores the personal meaning and significance of the situation. Feelings are surprisingly refractory to willpower. If wanting to feel different, and talking ourselves into feeling different, were possible, there would be many fewer psychologists in the world. If you serve as your own trading coach, a great place to start is with the perspective that feelings contain information. Research in cognitive neuroscience finds that emotion is an essential component of rational decision making. When the brain is damaged and becomes unable to engage in emotional processing, the result is profoundly distorted behavior. Your coaching goal is not to banish the feelings associated with difficult trading, a strategy that only prevents resolution, or to blindly act upon them. Rather, the most constructive step you can take to change a feeling is to give it full acknowledgement and extract its vital information. Feelings inform us about our appraisals of self, others, and world. The research of James Pennebaker, a professor at the University of Texas, is quite relevant here. He and his colleagues found that writing in a journal or talking aloud for a half-hour a day had a powerful effect on enabling people to cope effectively with challenging emotional circumstances, including traumas and crises. When we make implicit feelings explicit, we view them from different angles and place them into a different context. For example, someone who has been angry and frustrated with himself over poor trading performance might journal about these thoughts and feelings at length. As he is writing, and reading over his writings, he suddenly realizes, "Whoa, I'm being awfully hard on myself. I'm not that bad." With that, he is able to throttle back his negative self-talk and turn his attention back to markets. When we fail to acknowledge emotions, we lose their information and thus the opportunity to shift perspectives. The frustrated, angry trader who brushes aside his tensions and forges blindly ahead finds them easily triggered the next day. This is particularly the case when the frustrations are triggered initially by trading mistakes. I recently met with a trader who fought a market trend all morning, built frustration through the day, and then blew up in the late afternoon. Had the trader used the frustration to examine his trading, he could have ridden the trend and made significant money. Brushing emotions aside doesn't change them. Ironically, acknowledging and accepting them, giving them free expression, sets the stage for transformation. Does that mean that we should give full vent to whatever we're experiencing? No. Psychological research also suggests that unbridled expression of emotion interferes with concentration and performance. Simply yelling when we're angry or pouting when we're discouraged does nothing to alter the feelings, and certainly does not place us closer to resolving the situations responsible for the upset in the first place. The trader from my example, for instance, spent much of his afternoon fuming, but never resolving his anger. Reflexive acting on such emotions only reinforces them. You can't overcome frustration by behaving in frustrated ways. Blindly venting or acting on emotion is as unproductive as blinding ourselves to emotion. Both prevent learning from the information in our feelings. The idea, then, is to transform feeling, not ignore it and not revel in it. One way to do this is to replace one emotional state with another, to substitute feeling for feeling, not thought for feeling. In my Psychology of Trading book, I explained how I used the early music of Philip Glass to enter a meditative state and transform experience. Actually, any stimulus that evokes calm, focused attention can be effective as a tool for shifting emotions. The key is to evoke and sustain the Yoda state, the calm focus, during periods of high frustration or discouragement. Biofeedback can be especially useful in this regard, as computer-based applications provide real-time feedback about your success in sustaining the altered state. It is virtually impossible to sustain a worked-up state, anger, anxiety, and stress, when keeping yourself calm and focused. Even better, in the relaxed state, you'll arrive at perspectives and insights that remain unavailable while you're immersed in the flight or fight mode. One exercise I recommend to traders is to draw two thermometers side by side on a sheet of paper and then run off a number of copies of the paper. One thermometer records your emotional temperature with respect to frustration. The other records your temperature with respect to confidence. The sheet stays by your trade station. All you need to do is make a mark on each thermometer to indicate how frustrated and confident you're feeling at the time. When we're most frustrated, but also most overconfident, we are likely to make our worst decisions and violate our trading principles. If you require yourself to take your emotional temperature during each trading session, you create a mechanism for catching your state of mind before it can disrupt trading performance. Once you identify an elevated frustration temperature, a valuable automatic rule is to take a few minutes away from the screen and enter into a trance formation. This can be done by regulating your breathing, making it particularly deep and slow, and fixing your attention on something that captures your attention. Music, imagery, or a picture in front of you. If you slow your body and take your attention away from the situations that may be elevating your emotional temperature, you shift your state and make it easier to act calmly, in a planned fashion. With practice, this can be accomplished in a matter of minutes, short-circuiting many disruptive patterns before they lead to poor trading decisions. The key is to keep yourself aware of your emotional state throughout the day. The thermometers are an easy, visually arresting way of becoming your own observer and coach. Coaching Q. Check out the insights about breathing in Chapter 9. Mike Belafio of SMB Capital explains how he and partner Steve Spencer teach the traders at their prop firm how to breathe as part of training them to trade. As practitioners of meditative disciplines understand, emotional self-control begins with physical control. Lesson 6. Find the right mirrors. A mirror is an object that shows us our own image. Thanks to mirrors, we know what we look like. Far more goes into our self-image, however, than our physical reflection. That is because virtually all of our experience serves as a psychological mirror. We see ourselves reflected in the impacts we have upon the world around us. As a result, much of self-esteem, our sense of worth and competence, follows from finding the right mirrors in life. Let's start with romantic relationships. When we select the right partner, we choose someone who knows and values the person we are. That love and support is ongoing, consistently reflected to us. It is a deep affirmation of self. In a similar fashion, parents constantly mirror a child's identity. "You're such a good boy," and "what a smart girl." Our self-talk is born of just such early life conversations. We internalize the voices from significant relationships. This is why abusive relationships are so damaging. To share life with a spouse who attacks or demeans us, or who just doesn't care, or to endure parents who are neglectful is to continually face a distorting mirror. Over time, children absorb the distorted images and no longer feel lovable, secure, and important. Out of such twisted self-images, they select future partners that validate their identities, sadly finding others who repeat the messages and experiences of the past. That is how abused children find themselves in abusive relationships, how insecure people land in insecure marriages. While relationships may be our most powerful psychological mirrors, given their emotional intensity and ongoing influence, they are far from the only determinants of self-image. The Devang principle that I wrote about in the Trader Feed blog captures the understanding that everything we do is a psychological mirror. When my daughter Devang tackled work that she didn't like, she found the work frustrating and felt inadequate as a result. When she pursued work that she loved so much that it didn't feel like work, she felt fulfilled and gained confidence. The best work speaks to our interests and values, matching our abilities with challenges. Day after day, performing efficaciously at work that is important to us generates mirror experiences of competence and worth. Conversely, when we're performing meaningless work that doesn't challenge our skills, it is difficult to feel anything other than boredom and meaninglessness. A large portion of career success consists of finding the right mirrors. It's much easier to get to the top when you're climbing the right ladders. For my work as a psychologist, nothing is a more powerful mirror than having a meaningful, positive impact upon people's lives, particularly when I get to know those people well and care about them. I enjoy giving a talk for a large audience or writing an article that's widely read. But the real joy is hearing back from someone who thought the ideas were of genuine value. And, to be honest, I find far more reward in helping a single person in counseling or coaching than in giving a keynote address for a large conference. When a person transforms her life via coaching or counseling, a mirror is created that validates and enhances both participants in the helping relationship. I have been most successful when I've immersed myself in these positive mirroring experiences. Least successful when I have pursued activities that, ultimately, offer a limited sense of self. When you serve as your own coach, your challenge is to structure your learning and development so that trading itself becomes an experience that mirrors your growing confidence and competence. Many traders limit their self-coaching to keeping a journal, and then limit their journaling to recounting all the things they've done wrong. As a result, self-coaching becomes little more than self-criticism. What is mirrored to a trader when the journal focus is so negative? What would be mirrored if we hired a teacher or coach who only offered criticism? Over time, such coaching would fail, reinforcing a sense of incompetence and failure. One of the best means for creating positive mirrors is the structured pursuit of goals. When we create challenging, meaningful, and doable goals, we generate potential experiences of mastery and success. When we make goal setting an ongoing feature of our self-coaching means, we continually construct opportunities for powerful, self-affirming emotional experiences. We know from psychological research that such emotional episodes are processed more deeply and enduringly than normal, daily experience. A good therapist creates vivid experiences that challenge clients' old patterns. Similarly, a good coach generates emotionally powerful and positive mirroring experiences for traders. Your goals should set yourself up for success and a building of confidence. So here is your assignment. Each day this week your trading journal should include a specific goal for work that particular trading session, concrete actions that you will take to achieve that goal, and a self-evaluation at the end of trading to gauge your success in reaching that goal. The goal should be a trading process that you wish to improve, i.e., something you have control over. Not a profit target, which you ultimately don't control. For example, your goal might be to increase your trading size incrementally, to implement a strategy for exiting trades in stages, or to limit trades to setups that align with the larger market trend. At the end of the day, you will give yourself a report card based solely on how well you achieved the goals you set for the day. These report cards can be displayed beside your monitor to reinforce your performance and progress. If you fail to achieve a good grade, Improvement on that activity becomes your goal for the next day. If you receive a fine report card, you generate fresh goals for the next session. The idea is to never trade without consciously working on some aspect of your trading. It is not enough to set goals. You need ways of tracking your progress toward those goals and feeding that information into future goals. Many traders only engage in such goal setting when they're trading poorly or losing money. The idea, however, is to make self-coaching and self-improvement an ongoing part of your trading career. Why? Because it's not just about making money. It's about creating the experiences that will sustain your sense of competence and confidence. Think of a young child. You don't offer positive feedback only when the child is hurting. Rather, your support and love are continuous, enabling the child to sustain a consistent self-image. As a developing trader, you are like that young child. Your ability to create powerful mirroring experiences will make a difference in your ability to sustain the optimism and courage to weather drawdowns and aggressively pursue opportunity. Please take note of the following principle. If you limit your losses, pursue your strengths, and take concrete steps toward mastery, every single trading day can be a positive experience. Even when you're not making money, you cannot eliminate losing days, but there should never be days that leave you feeling like a loser. Coaching cue when you construct your report cards. Grade yourself based on your improvement, not based on an abstract, or perfectionist, standard of success. If you manage your trades better today than yesterday, that merits a good grade. Your goal is to improve. By focusing on improvement, you create powerful mirrors of self-development. Relative, not absolute, goals will get you to your desired endpoint. And they will ensure an enjoyable and empowering journey.